Welcome to Future Ready Live, where we talk about topics that will help CPAs, CGMAs, finance, and accounting pros prepare for change and transformation. I'm your host, Tom Hood, the EVP for Business Engagement and Growth at the AICPA SEMA, the largest association of professional accountants, CPAs, CGMAs, and students in the world. Today, we're going to be talking about the CPA career, advice on how to make your assets greater than your liabilities. I love that subtitle of the book. And the book titled Advice for a Successful Career in the Accounting Profession by author Jerry Maginnis, CPA. Now, Jerry's a former office managing partner of KPMG's Philadelphia office, past chairman of the Pennsylvania Institute of CPAs, PICPA, an executive in residence at Rowan University in Southern New Jersey. He also is currently serving as a board member and audit committee chair for Cohen and Steers Mutual Funds. Jerry, say hello to our audience today.
Well, good morning, Tom, and thank you for that gracious introduction. Delighted to be with you today.
It's awesome to have you here. So let's start with, I've got my copy of the book right here. I think I've read almost all of it. I'll be probably finishing it this weekend. But what was your motivation for writing this book, Advice for a Successful Career in the Accounting Profession?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Tom. As you mentioned in your intro, after I retired from KPMG a couple years ago, I've stayed involved in the business community. I'm on a couple boards, doing some consulting, but probably one of the things that I've really enjoyed doing the most is being involved at an academic institution. I live here in Southern New Jersey, and Rowan University is very close to my home. So I got involved there in kind of a unique role they call executive in residence. And so what does that mean? I'm not on the faculty, I'm not an adjunct professor, but I do get an opportunity to get into the classroom and visit with the students and give guest lectures on various topics, ethics, careers in accounting, etc. And one of the main things I do is I try and be a resource to the students. So during my time at Rowan, I've met with dozens and dozens and dozens of students and talked to them about their career aspirations, concerns, their futures. And that really became the catalyst for the book. One day, a couple years ago, I met with a student and we had a nice chat. They left my office and I leaned back in my chair and I said, geez, I think that's about the 50th time I've had that conversation, right? Which was about taking the CPA exam. And so I said, geez, I wonder if there's an opportunity to put down on paper some of the tips, advice, suggestions I'm trying to share with these students here at Rowan in a way that could be leveraged more broadly. And that really is what caused me to write the book.
One thing I have to go work into that is you talk specifically about the CPA career, right? And what's the difference between a CPA, the profession, the whole licensing thing versus a job, right? Or what everyone says, what kind of a job am I gonna get? What's the difference between a professional like that and a normal job?
Yeah, great question, Tom. And I talk a lot about that in the book. And I explain the many different career paths one can pursue with an accounting degree, right? So certainly chapter 2 of the book is all about becoming a CPA, and it's entitled, Is a CPA the Right Path for You? But at the same time, I talk about other career paths, working in industry, working in government, forensic accounting, internal auditing. I also lay out the various designations one can pursue beyond CPA. So I talk about CGMA, forensic accounting designations, internal audit, and there's just so many ways, as you know, you can take an accounting degree. But traditional CPAs tend to be in the audit field, right? That's the one thing you really need the CPA license for, is to sign an audit report. And it's a regulated profession, as we know, and it's a great career path, but it's different than others like tax or advisory. So I kind of elaborate on all those things in the book.
Yeah, so being a CPA myself, and I'm also a CGMA, I certainly believe in the ideas of credentials and that advanced education. I spent most of my career in business and industry. So that's that alternative, right? Public accounting, probably about half our profession, the other business and industry. And the point about I've always found as a CPA, first of all, it does separate you from everyone else. The trust that comes with that CPA designation in the market is extraordinary, in my opinion. And that's a big differentiator from all the other type jobs or degrees you might get, I think. What do you think about that?
So at the end of chapter 2, where I explain what's involved in becoming a CPA, the 150-hour requirement, etc., and then I talk about the other designations and credentials and all the different things you could do with your accounting degree, I conclude by saying I highly recommend you become a CPA. I couldn't agree more with your observations. It's the gold standard in our profession, in my humble opinion. And if you can kind of tack on some other credentials to that, whether it's a master's in tax or a CGMA, you're just positioning yourself for more and more opportunities and success throughout your career. We all know this is a profession where lifelong learning needs to be one of your core values. You never stop learning.
Yeah.
When you stop learning, it's pretty much time to pack it in.
Yeah. And then I think the other part that comes with it, which goes along with that trust, is the ethical background, right? I mean, we have a code of professional conduct, the whole ethics standards. That's critical from that perspective and adds to that, again, in the marketplace for employers. They, whether you're in auditing or in business and industry, they still trust you as a certified public accountant.
So in fact, Tom, there's a chapter in my book that's called Core Values That Are Essential to Your Success. And I talk a lot about integrity, trust, ethics. In fact, I elaborate on, during the time I was writing the book, some of the things that were dominating our headlines. We had the college admissions scandal. We had the Houston Astros cheating in the World Series, stealing signs. We had major corporations having instances of fraud. So it really, ethics touches on every aspect of business and life, really, but it's so important for CPAs because we are trusted to make sure that the capital markets are functioning effectively.
Yeah.
And we have an important role as a gatekeeper in that regard. So CPAs, in my opinion, need to hold themselves to an even higher ethical standard than the average business professional.
And that's baked into that whole education and certainly in the exam part of it. So you're absolutely right. Now, the other thing I think that's important is that in this environment where we're starting to see inflation raise its ugly head and the rumors of potential recession around the corner, which hasn't happened in quite a while, I would say to the audience, if it's parents or students or prospective folks about accounting degrees, if you're a CPA, you'll never be without a job. CPAs are highly employable, and especially in bad market conditions. So I would say that's a big differentiator from that standpoint as we look at the current environment.
I totally agree. It's a very stable profession. And if I was sitting down with a parent of a young person who was contemplating career paths, I would tell them, read chapter 1 of my book. It's entitled Why Accounting is a Terrific Profession. And it talks about, sure, you can make a great living, right? Whether you're a CFO, who's typically the second highest compensated person at a public company, or whether you're a CPA working for a large national firm or a small regional firm, you can make a great living, but there's so much more than the money. And I tell the students at Rowan, it's really not about the money. It's about finding your passion, something you enjoy. And if you enjoy it, you're going to be good at it. And if you're good at it, the money will follow. So, but the flexibility of the profession today, particularly as we come out of the COVID environment, I think remote work is here to stay to some extent. The opportunity to have a seat at the table on the front lines of American business, again, whether you're that individual working for a company or you're the outside auditor or the tax advisor, you're literally in the boardroom when important decisions are getting made and you're part of that conversation. It's also a profession that really plays a critical role in the effective functioning of our capital markets and the broader U.S. economy. So I think if you want to feel good that you're making an important contribution to society, the accounting profession just offers terrific opportunities.
Now, let's talk about, because I hear this quite a bit about young people wanting to be entrepreneurs. And I know in your chapter 4, you talk about all these alternative career paths, which I love. Talk a little bit about how accounting could help someone really get that job as an entrepreneur and ultimately run their own business, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as Warren Buffett has famously said, accounting is the language of business. And a degree in accounting, a background in accounting will serve you extremely well, whether you're rising up in your organization and being asked to run a P&L and manage resources and people, or whether you choose to launch your own business, which I agree with you, Tom. Many young folks are interested in doing these days. I've known a lot of accountants who have successfully launched businesses. I'm working with one currently, a young man who started an accounting firm and has grown it to 130 people, offices in Philly, New York, just opened in Boston, looking at Raleigh and Tampa, and has big aspirations to take it national. I've known other CPAs who started in accounting, got a great foundation, and then decided to start another business. So one gentleman I know has an executive search firm. He's doing quite well. So that background in accounting can be instrumental to launching an entrepreneurial career in a lot of different industries.
Yeah, and I'll give you a couple examples of folks that I know. So there was a young lady in Maryland, CPA, and she said she always had a passion for fashion. And so she knew she couldn't be a designer, but she ended up getting a job, ultimately leading to the CFO of a really power in the Mid-Atlantic. And so that was her way of getting to that kind of involvement. And that's really cool, right? So Jeff Gehring is the CFO of the Baltimore Ravens. So if you love football, sports, every business needs finance accounting people and auditors to audit them, right? So, and then the other one, I had a chance to meet Rich Tierlink, who was the CEO of a little company many people might be familiar with called Harley Davidson. And he rose through accounting as the CFO and became the CEO of that. And I got to be on a conference with him for the AICPA a few years back as he was retiring. And then there's Phil Knight, who founded Nike. He was a CFO and then became the CEO and hired tons of accountants because he believed in the discipline of understanding the business, the language of business, as you said. So there's all examples of exciting careers that people could go to.
Tom, we're in violent agreement. In fact, I talk about it quite a bit in the book. And, what industry do you like? Do you like technology? Do you like pharmaceuticals? Do you like sports and entertainment? They all need accountants.
Yep.
I tell the story of my friend John Nicholas, who's a big sports fan and loves baseball and wound up becoming the CFO of the Philadelphia Phillies.
Yep. There's tons and tons of those examples. So I think that's awesome for everyone to think about. So again, parents, students, or people advising young people on careers, we have to talk about this broader idea because, again, the language of business is ubiquitous. Everybody needs it. Nonprofits, right? That's the other way you can make a difference by being one of our Maryland members is the CFO of the Girl Scouts of America. That's another example, right, of all kinds of things that you can get involved in. So I think that's super, super cool. One of your subtitles goes like this: achieving your full potential and optimizing the benefits of your accounting degree. Talk about a couple of those tips that you would provide the audience.
Yeah, happy to do that, Tom. And honestly, the book is full of what I tried to make very practical advice. As I was writing the book, I was very aware that the intended audience, mostly college and university students and early career professionals, gets a lot of their information, as we all do today, from these devices, right? Whether it be a text message or a social media post, short, succinct, concise communication. So what I didn't want to do was write a 400-page dense text volume that people would never get through. So the format of the book is very succinct and very practical, and I give a lot of tips and advice. So some of the things in response to your question that I talk about that I think will really help anyone optimize the benefits of their accounting degree. So reading is becoming a lost art, but continuous learning is critical to your success in this profession, and you need to be reading every day, and not just the snippets and the text messages, but getting beyond the headlines. So I make the point in the book that successful people are avid readers. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Jamie Dimon, these are all people that are voracious readers, and if you interview them about their success in business and in life, they attribute it a lot to being avid readers. Another tip I give in the book is to have a value creation mindset. What does that mean? That means not thinking like an employee, but thinking like an owner, thinking like an entrepreneur, even if you're working for a large organization. So if you get up every day thinking about your job as if it were your own business and how you could create more value for your customers, your employees, how you can enhance processes, make things better, you're going to do very well in life. Last practical tip that I'll mention here, and again, there's a lot of them in the book, is the importance of relationships. I've got a chapter in the book called Relationships, Relationships, Relationships. And I analogize to the real estate industry where you're here that what matters in real estate is location, location, location. But I found in my own career that relationships were just so important and so instrumental to your success. And it's never too early to start expanding your network and maintaining your network. To some extent, it's easy to meet people. It's a little more challenging to maintain relationships and stay in touch with some of those people you've met. There's an art to that, and I give some tips about how to do that in the book.
So, and you obviously you're an exemplar of that. You've been volunteering your whole career. Clearly, you're still doing that kind of volunteer work. You were on the AICPA Foundation, and you CEO, I mean, the president of the Pennsylvania Institute of CPA. So the other part I would tell the audience out here is there's a couple things. There's a national site called This Way to CPA that you can sign up for free, and it'll give you lots of tips and areas to look at for that CPA. There's also every state CPA society, PI CPA, MA CPA, you name it. If you go to those state CPA societies and look up students, almost all of them have free student member resources to help you explore deeper about that career. So those are other things. But clearly, just looking at your backdrop, you are a reader, clearly a voracious reader, as am I.
I'm guilty as charged.
I'm the same way. You can't see the other part of my it's full of books. And
If we had a little time, Tom, a little more time, we could have some fun. But I'm guessing there's at least 10 books in common on my bookshelf and your bookshelf.
I would bet that could be the follow up to this. But yeah, I think this was awesome. So yeah, real quick, how do we think this book helps our pipeline? Because right now we have a pipeline challenge. We have a lot of competing degrees for accounting majors. So what do you say about that?
Yeah, the pipeline problem and challenge is very concerning to me. I think it's real, and I think we all need to be focused on it. And listen, my book is not a silver bullet that's going to solve that problem, but I think a lot of state societies, accounting organizations, college and university programs that are concerned about declining enrollments see the book as really a resource to kind of get the word out that careers in accounting could be very powerful for all the reasons we've talked about, and a great option for younger people at the high school level. Maybe they're in community college contemplating their career. Maybe they're an undeclared business major. A dean of a local university here in Philadelphia told me he's going to give my book to every undeclared business major, which is great. So I think it's a resource. I have a personal goal. I want to get it into the inner city to some underrepresented populations, maybe at the high school level, get it into some public libraries around the country, because, many of us got into accounting because we knew someone who was a role model, who we saw was successful. We became aware of the profession that way. In a lot of neighborhoods in this country, particularly in the inner city, those role models might not be apparent. And so educating some of those diverse populations about what a great profession this is, I think is a golden opportunity.
Well, I don't know about you, but I was the first generation in my entire family to ever go to college and became an accountant. But by the way, the other thing that's a good tip for people, if you wanted to be an FBI agent, that's really why I got into accounting. My dad was a Baltimore City police officer, and I wanted some form of law enforcement career, but I wanted to go a little bit higher than the police service. And that was the easiest way to get in the FBI at the time, right? They catch most criminals on tax evasion. So that's what got me interested in the whole accounting degree. But it's a great major for that first degree college student. I mean, first generation college student.
Couldn't agree more, Tom. I, like you, am a first time in my family to go to college. And I think if you look back historically, that's been the case with a lot of people who have entered our profession. So
Yep.
there's a whole nother generation to tap into. And I like to say it's not a pipeline challenge, it's a pipeline opportunity.
I love it. Exactly right. Well, this has been awesome to catch up with you, Jerry. I want to plug the book again. This is his book, Advice for Successful Career in the Accounting Profession. You can get it on Amazon. We'll post it in the comments when we go live as we're broadcasting. And again, you can follow him. Look him up on LinkedIn, Jerry Maginnis, Maginnis. So you can find him there. Any other links to catch up to you on?
If you Google Jerry Maginnis Amazon, there'll be a link to the book that'll pop up that people might have an interest in taking. There's some reviews about the book, etc., that they could take a look at there.
All right, so buy this book, help get more people interested in this profession because we need you. And Jerry, thank you for your time today. And so now, thanks everyone for being here. Don't miss other Future Ready live sessions on the first and third Tuesday of each month at noon Eastern. We'll see you then. And thanks again, Jerry.
Thank you, Tom.